Good morning, Mitch. Thank you very much for making time for the Listen.Better podcast today on the day of the England-Germany match. And of course, when this goes out, we will know the results. But any predictions?
I think we're going to win. I've got a feeling. Feeling
and a
good.
Score?
I wouldn't want to be drawn on the score. It'll probably be nerve-wracking, but I've felt all week that something great was going to happen tonight. I've just got a feeling.
I'm with you on that. Let's see what happens. So back to you and the Academy group. So you launched the Academy in 2014 and then merged with Shine in 2016. But what a year we've just had. What has lockdown done for you, the PR sector, UK PLC, would you say? Big question to start.
Big question. No warm-up. It's been an amazing year for lots of reasons. Been tough. I think I would probably break the year up into different parts. So I would say phase one, March 2020, lockdown, shock, panic, very fast changing picture. And, you know, pretty much everyone was in the same boat. And that was about trying to stay calm and to give people as much reassurance as we could give people, given the fast-moving position we were in, and stabilizing and putting things into place which would see us kind of fit for purpose in the year ahead. I think phase two was probably the summer onwards, where we were into our new way of working and, you know, that horrible term, the new normal. And in that phase of just getting used to what that year was beginning to look like. Phase three was obviously the end of a temporary end of lockdown and adjusting to what that kind of midpoint looked like. And each brought its own challenges and each brought opportunities. And I can only speak for us, but actually it ended up being a really positive year. And I think in lots of ways, I think lockdown was the making of us as a company. I think it was the making of us as a culture. That's only down to the hard work of the people at the Academy, and everyone worked incredibly hard. But I think there were loads of positives to be drawn from it, which is a privileged position to be in.
Fantastic. That's a great roundup. What, if you take that more personally, what have you learned about yourself as a leader in that time, would you say?
I think all leaders, there's something about a crisis that gives all leaders an opportunity. So you never want a crisis. You definitely don't welcome one. But I think a crisis gives you a platform to lead in a different type of way. And I quite like I quite like using a difficult moment to show my team, our clients, how important they are and the type of values we have as a business. And the one thing about a difficult moment is you really have an opportunity to show up and step up and let people know that, you know, you've got their back and how important they are to the business. So I quite like that, because I like that opportunity to reinforce the values and the you know, the pillars of our company. And I think you can do that. So I quite like that challenge. Maybe that's a slightly warped part of my personality, but I quite like the the chance to do that. I think I'm quite good under pressure. I'm quite calm. Sometimes I think I'm a better leader in a crisis than maybe when I'm outside of one. So for me, I think it was a really challenging but really rewarding period of time. And I'm really proud of how everyone did. And I think I just look back on that period of time feeling really positive about the systems we got in place, the ethos of the company, the relationships we have with our clients, and just how hardworking everyone was.
So I understand you have a paranoia, Mitch, and we talked a little bit about it in preparing for this interview. And the phrase that you used was you're keen to ensure that you stave off becoming average. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that was a term I think we coined many, many years ago. I can't remember exactly who said it. It might have been Dan. I think Dan and I both share that paranoia, which is handy. And the paranoia is about just becoming ordinary and doing ordinary work and becoming just another company in the industry. And I think it's the paranoia. I always think a bit of paranoia is good. if you're too paranoid about stuff, then you're paralyzed with fear and you can't do anything. But I think if you're too laid back in this job, then it doesn't really work, because you leave things to chance and you risk too much. I've always thought I always thought the best people I've ever learned from or worked with have a healthy amount of paranoia. So for Dan and I, it's about the work. Ultimately, it's always about the work. Is the work we're doing for our clients the best it can be? Or is it average? Is it safe? Are our pitch responses, are they designed to try and win the pitch? Or are they designed to try and build the brand and solve the problem? So we always have a thing about, we don't want to win the pitch, we want to solve the problem. Now, if that wins the pitch, brilliant. But actually the priority isn't to try and find a way of getting over the line. The priority is to try and find a way of doing work that achieves its objective and helps the brand. So is our recruitment average, or are we leaving no stone unturned and bringing the very best people into the business? Is the culture we have, is it just okay, or is it giving people the very best platform to do their best work? Are we working as hard as we can work? So all those things, I think we challenge ourselves every day. And luckily, Dan and I share that view. So we both kind of bring each other up in that sense. And I think, it's not easy having a business partner. I'm very lucky. I've got one who, I think we're wired the same way. We're very different people in lots of respects, but we're wired in the same way from that point of view. So that really helps.
I can immediately see some of the upsides of that, in that you do great work for great clients. But are there any tensions or challenges or problems in that? Do you get pushed back? Tell me about some of the, and be candid if you will.
Sure. There's always a downside, and there's lots of them. So the downside can sometimes be we don't always pause to celebrate success enough, because we're always thinking about the next thing. There's something in my DNA about, if you stop and celebrate and pat yourself on the back, then you might end up getting too comfortable and you might end up becoming average. So there's something about not getting complacent. And I think the risk of that is that you end up running a business that's relentless. So we've had to work really, really hard in the last couple of years to make sure that we take people with us, that we share success and we celebrate success, and that we don't end up always wanting more, which ends up making it impossible to succeed. So there's a job to manage that. Listen, sometimes I think we don't win a pitch because maybe we're too brave, or maybe what we're proposing is too ambitious, but we're okay with that. The priority is to not win the pitch. It's to put the right response on the table. And we won't be everyone's cup of tea, but creatively, we're always trying to push boundaries, and we always want to be famous for our work. And not everybody, when it comes down to it, has the appetite to do that. And that's okay. We're comfortable with that.
That's inspiring to hear. And as you mature as a business, as I said, you're 5 years old as a group, what are your plans for the next 5 years to keep that freshness, that drive, that paranoia, I suppose, keeping it keen? What's your vision for the next 5 years?
Well, we've built a structure at the Academy which we think will give us the space to grow and to scale creatively. We have a column structure, partly because in the Academy in Plato's time, Dan reliably tells me that there was an academy with lots of pillars. So it feels, I mean, he's adamant about that. Who am I to argue? So we have a column structure whereby we have a series of columns. Each column is self-contained. So it's capped at a certain revenue level, and it has at the very top of it a director and a creative director. So every column is equally weighted to be able to grow to a certain size, but no bigger. What that does is it gives clients access to their most senior people. It means that if you're a member of staff working in that column, you get very closely nurtured and developed. What it also does is it makes sure that the creative standards are maintained and they're very high. And if you want to grow the Academy every year, instead of working people harder or asking people to take on more, you open another column. If you want to grow by faster, you open 2 columns. And a column can be more PR. It could be a different type of discipline. It could be healthcare PR. It could be financial PR. It could be a different approach to marketing. It could also be a different market. So we could open another column in Berlin or in Stockholm or in America. So we think we've got a structure that helps to creatively scale our business. It doesn't burn our staff out. That's really important. They have to be on the journey with us. It gives clients everything they need. And I think the most exciting part of all is it gives our staff a long-term pathway as well in their careers. So if you start off as an account manager in the column and you work really hard, you get to the top of the column, you can run the column. If that's your ambition, you can run the column. If you're not inclined to be the leader of a column or a business, you can be the number 2 in a column. And there's an amazing opportunity for you there. And I think best of all, if your ambition is to set your own business up one day, like it was mine back in the day, you can leave column 1 or column 2 and set up column 6. And column 6 is your business within our business, which means we back you to run your own column and you fulfill your ambition of doing that within the academy. So we're really excited about that model for clients, for staff, for the creative work that we're doing. And we think that will give us growth for the next 5 years and more, because we can see that vision.
I love that. And I particularly love the fact that when you were speaking, it seems to be columns of sunshine are flooding your room, which I just think...
I don't know how that's happened. It's a miracle. The summers began in the middle of our interview, Annabel.
I love it. Really interesting to hear, and I wish I'd been part of an agency like that when I was a mere sprog in my 20s. But fantastic and really inspirational, and I'm sure you're going to attract some really top talent who will then stay and grow with you, which is great to hear. What inspires you? Who inspires you, Mitch? I mean, clearly you've got great vision there. You run a really successful outfit. So who inspires you, and what advice would you give your 18-year-old self? 2 questions in one there.
I'd tell my 18-year-old self to make the most of his hair. Try some great hairstyles while you can. I'll come back to that question with a less flippant answer in a second, I promise. Who inspires me? Dan Glover inspires me every day of the week, because he is probably the smartest person I've ever worked with. And his work ethic and his craft and his attention to detail and his ability to take a very complicated problem and distill it into something very simple, I think is the mark of a genius. And I don't use that word too often. My mum and dad inspire me. My mum is the best salesperson I've ever met. My dad is the best manager of people I've ever met. So if I can take a bit of both of those things, I'm not going to go too far wrong. I draw inspiration from the industry, from people doing great work, from beyond the industry into other creative industries. I draw inspiration from sport, from football managers, from anyone that leads a group of people with challenges, with an objective, where there are bumps along the way, where there are difficult moments, how people maneuver those challenges. I think we can all learn from other industries and other areas. And the 18-year-old me, back to that question, I think the advice I'd give him would be to just try and enjoy the journey a bit more. I've learned to do that in the last maybe 5 or 10 years. I really enjoyed the journey. I think it's harder when you're younger because you've got so much ahead of you. You don't always realize in the moment where you're in a really privileged place. So I'll give you an example. My first job was at B-Sky-B, and it was an incredible place to work. And it was inspiring to be in that building every single day. But I only realized that when I left. Only with hindsight do I realize how lucky I was and how big that opportunity was. I wish the 18-year-old me had known that make the most of every single opportunity, because it goes quickly and you can't always bring it back. So I think just to enjoy the journey a bit more, but maybe that's easy to say with hindsight.
I really like that, and I think you could be doing graduation speeches with that kind of fighting talk. And really important reminder, yes, to enjoy the journey and celebrate successes along the way, because it goes all too quickly. Mitch, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think you and Dan should actually become the England coaches, depending on the outcome of tonight's match. Sounds like you're a dynamic duo, and wish you all the best with the Academy Group going forward. Thanks for your time today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.